So welcome back to the channel. I'm going to introduce today my Saab 9.3 2-litre SE on a 2002, which is one of the very later ones. They did it up to 2003 on the reg plates, but 2002 is the last model year they made them. So let's have a walk around. So this is finished in laser red paintwork, solid red, which is a base coat with lacquer, so it doesn't fade or go pink like a lot of red vehicles. It does, however, suffer a bit from lacquer peel, but apart from that, it's kept together pretty well. So I've owned this car since 2019, and I didn't pay a lot for it. I was taken by the colour, which is not really a good basis to buy a vehicle on. But it's a good spec and the car is in reasonable condition when I bought it. So this is a 2-litre SE, 150 horsepower standard, the V205 engine with a manual gearbox, and it did originally come with half leather seats that had been valeted to death, so they were immaculately clean, but after a few days the smell of cigarettes started coming back. And unbeknownst to me, when I bought it, the previous owner had been a heavy smoker, and despite all the cleaning the people had done to it that had sold it me, the smell was impregnated in every soft area of the interior. So I had to change the interior, and I opted to go for the velour interior because I don't like leather, I prefer velour. So this is a velour interior out of a 2000 model 9.3 SE. Exactly the same spec as this, but just an earlier model, and I don't think they did the velour in the later models up to 2002 like this. I've not seen one anyway. I have done various modifications to this, cosmetically and to the engine. It's had a steering wheel on it, which I've fitted off a Saab 9.5 2006 onwards model. You can see there, it looks like the Saab 9.3 new generation model, but it is slightly different because the fitting's different basically. The dashboard originally had the carbon effect, the motorbike to go by, carbon effect fascia on it, but I've gone for the black fascia, and this is actually out of a new generation 900. I just prefer the plain look. It's got climate control, it's an SE, it's got cruise control, it did have the half leather, which is part of the SE spec, leather gaiter is standard, real leather, and also old Saabs, it's got like full set of electric windows, it's got alarm immobiliser, which is like quite advanced unit on this Saab system, they're quite a secure car. It's got, I'm trying to think what else it has as an SE. The 17-inch double wide spoke alloys on it, which I've changed for the Alu 52 Saab wheels, which they fitted to the Saab 9.5 2006 onwards on the Aero models mainly, and then they started to fit into other models. So yeah, it's a really comfy place to be. The aircon works on it really well. I say it's absolutely, it's just so quiet in here when you're driving it. Shot of the interior there. So all our vehicles have a Pioneer head unit with a disc changer in the boots and subwoofers connected up, all wired in properly. I do all of my own in-car entertainment work myself, and it works fantastic. So the engine is the V205, which is the light pressure turbo fitted with a Garrett GT17 turbocharger. This has been remapped, and it's got a 255 litre per hour fuel pump on it, uprated fuel pressure regulator, it's got a high flow air filter, it's got a stainless steel exhaust, it's got a larger bore on it, and it does make a difference. It makes a vast difference. It really wakes the engine up. The rocker cover is from a Saab B202. The direct ignition cartridge is a black item that I painted red. That is an original H-series motor red oil cap, and that is a original very old Saab 9000 turbo badge, which have just cosmetic differences on the engine. Controversial, but I've run slick 50 in all my engines and it's never steered me wrong. You can hammer them and the oil tends to stay in very good condition at the time that you need to change it. It doesn't end up getting sludgy or anything like that. So I always run the cars on slick 50 additive. I always use the best quality engine oil. That battery cover, by the way, is a genuine Saab item from a early Saab 95. Quite hard to get hold of now, but it just tidies the engine bay up a bit. That grille is off a new generation 900. And to the rear, I'll show you the modifications I've done. There is no rear wiper on this one. I've taken it off. Took the pipe work out, electronics, motor and all that lot. Filled and painted that spoiler myself, and I think I've done a pretty good job. It was quite original. The back section I've painted in a matte black, tinted the lenses, and I've used a high quality LED bulbs which shine through that really well. The exhaust is a custom stainless steel item. Boot is quite spacious. It's not huge, but I'm used to the boot on my classic 900, and that is massive. Well, this is plenty big enough. It's big enough to fit my sub in anyway. Pioneer item run by an Alpine V12 amplifier and a Pioneer 12 exchanger. I've put a second boot light in because you just need more light, especially since it's dark a lot of the time, especially in the northwest. Since I've winter 11 months of the year. So this would have come with the standard Saab badge, not Saab Scania, because Saab didn't have the copyright to use the Scania logo after 2000. But I've fitted these Saab Scania logos because I prefer them to the standard Saab items. Same with the steering wheel one, that is an item which I fitted because it normally just has Saab written on it. Barrera V6 going past there. I don't see many of those anymore. Wonder why. These turbo badges, they're off Vauxhall, but I think they suit me quite well actually. They're not too big and they're nice fonts, so I think they work pretty well on this. Brakes are standard items at the moment. I've got plans to uprate it with a set of 4-pot calipers and larger discs, which I actually have, but it's just getting around to getting them fitted. As with the rears, I will be fitting some larger brakes on there as well. That will come on the channel later. So there's no 9.3 badge on this. I've changed it for a turbo badge, which is a genuine Saab item, which costs a fair bit, but it's worth it because it just gives it its unique look. Right, shall proceed with a test drive in a moment. Is anybody going to let me out? I don't think so. Let's have a look. Not one person. Is letting me out or not? Yeah. Significantly faster than the standard 150 horsepower B205. The B205 came in three forms in the 9.3. It came as a 150 horsepower low pressure turbo, mid pressure at 185 horsepower and 210 horsepower for the aero. All of them have counter rotating twin balancer shafts, which makes them very smooth compared to other four-cylinder engines, and they're quite rev happy, even though you don't really have to rev them at all because they've got so much torque, mid-range torque, and that's the party trick of a lot of the traditional Saab engines. You know, you stick them in third gear and you just accelerate and they just go. Also, you can just cruise along in fifth, and when you need the power, you don't need to like downshift or anything like that. You just apply a bit more throttle, and they just, you know, quietly and smoothly just pull away. So again, another fantastic motorway cruiser. This one's a 5-speed gearbox, which is a gearbox similarly used by GM in Vauxhall and other GM brands, but this is the latest version of it. I think this is called an FM55 in the Saab ones, and it's very long geared. Despite only being a 5-speed gearbox, at 70 mile an hour is just around, just over 2000 RPM, and also at higher speeds it's still very low gears, which makes it very quiet on the motorway. The platform of this old generation 9.3 is loosely based upon the one found on the Mark III Vauxhall Cavalier or Opel Vectra A. It's a heavily modified version of, so the basic floor pressing is the same, but Saab have modified virtually every aspect of it for the better, basically, because it's stronger in significant key areas, rear suspension mounts and rigidity in the floor pan. When they developed the new generation 900, which is the predecessor to this one, it looks like the same vehicle, but there are many differences on it. When they did the torsional rigidity test on the body shell, they found it is actually a stiffer shell than the B&W E36 at the time, which obviously was considered like one of the best chassis and bodies of its class. But the Saab, despite even being a hatchback, was an actually stiffer shell, which makes the vehicle quieter because you're not got as much twist and shake and everything. Improves safety and handling. The only problem with a turbocharged revamped engine like this, it's addictive, so you want to drive it sedately, but it's hard to, because the acceleration, you know, you get a bit of G from it when you accelerate. There's not many cars can do that. Even a lot of modern vehicles, they lack the torque. It's a lot of top-end turbo power. Let's go for turbo diesels, but turbo diesels, they're too complicated. Modern ones, there's so much to go wrong with them. So I like these the old Saab engine. It's actually still being produced in China because the Chinese took they've got all the tooling for it, and it's actually still being produced to this day. And it can trace its roots back to the late 60s when it was originally conceived, very like genesis of it, for the Saab 99 and the Triumph Dolomite, as the Ricardo developed Slam 4 engine, which is essentially half a V8 engine in design, to give a lower bonnet line, better lower centre of gravity and all that lot. So Saab used that engine in a 1.7 and 1.8 forms up to 1972, I think it was, and then they developed from that their own B-series engine, which was significantly improved over that, and that ran until about 1980-81 in the 900s and the 99s, turbocharged, fuel injected and carburetted, and that developed into the H-series engine, which was basically the 8-valve version of the up-and-coming B202, which was a 16-valve version, and the 16-valve B202 ran in the 900 and 9000 up until 1994, and then that got developed into the B204, where it was no longer a 45-degree angle block, it turned into a traditional straight engine block, and then the B204 ran up until 1998 in the 9000 and the 900, and it's used in the 93 up until 2000, and then late 2000 the B205 was used in the 93 and the B235 in the Vigan model, which was originally used in the Saab 95 from 1997 onwards, so it's used in the 95 before the 93. So the B205 is essentially a developed version of the predecessors that became the earlier Saabs. So fifth gear, it just goes. You don't need to rev it out or anything like that. It's just a very tractable engine. The handling on this, obviously this is an older chassis as compared to the Vectra B, which I've driven, which is my partner's car, which will be featured on this channel as well. The Vectra B shares its underpinnings with the Saab 95. Again, Saab took the Vectra B platform and they highly modified it for the Saab 95, as they did for the Cavalier for this. So this has a twist beam axle at the back with 2 anti-roll bars as standard. This has an uprated rear anti-roll bar on it. So it's a much simpler setup, but it doesn't mean it's massively detrimental. The ride quality is still fantastic and it handles well enough, you know, it's great. There's less to go wrong with it actually. So the axle on this is similar to what you'd find on a Mark III Astra or an Astra F, which they didn't actually use on the Cavalier. Because Saab decided to use that one, probably because it's stronger and a better design, but again, they didn't just use that, they took it and they've altered the geometry for it, for the 9.3, so the geometry is different, even though they look the same, to improve handling and braking at high speeds and stuff like that. The steering is basically the same as you get on a Mark III Astra or a Cavalier. They've mounted the steering rack on the bulkhead, which is not unique. You know, many cars use that. Honda and Audis and other vehicles, Volkswagen Passats and Freelander and stuff like that. Apart from the mounting plate on the driver's side or the right hand side of the vehicle, they tend to split. So that's aided by fitting a steering rack brace on the left side, which stops the rack shifting around as much. This is fully pulley bushed at the front, so the lower suspension arms are 2-piece items, Saab only items, not found on Vauxhall or Opel. Aluminium items, actually similar in design to a Porsche Boxster. Might be a bit of a stretch, but very similar. It's a 2-piece with big rubber bushes in it and stuff. So they're replaced with Powerflex polyurethane items, and I must say it hasn't changed the ride or the noise or MVH or anything like that. It still rides and what have you really well. You know, there's no vibrations in the car or harsh ride quality. It just sharpens the steering up and the braking, which is, you know, not a bad thing. It's all positive. So that's been modified on the front, and it's got a steering rack brace. It has got Keelan lowering springs on it, which are a Swedish brand. Probably not many people heard of them. They're just a very plain black in colour. They're not too harsh. They don't crash over bumps or anything. So I'd highly recommend Keelan lowering springs to anybody that's going to lower any vehicle, especially a Saab like this. Right, that concludes the test drive. Okay, so you'll be seeing much more of this car on the channel for its maintenance and upgrades. The weather's starting to get slightly better. There's some paintwork on the front bumper which has only come on over winter. It's original paintwork, by the way, so it's not done bad for 20 years old. The lacquer's just flaked on the top, so we're going to get that top half of the bumper painted and do other upgrades on it. So this is another car that we featured on the channel alongside the Vectra.